Good morning. So our panelists, we'll try to lean around the corner a little bit to you folks over here on our far right. Maybe you can see on the screen. What a great opportunity we all have to work in such an important industry. As our world continues to evolve and get a little bit more complicated, and sometimes many manual jobs are moving to knowledge-based jobs, the role of higher education, research, the mission of colleges and universities and the firms who support them, what a great and important mission that we have to work in this industry. So this morning, we're going to talk about Kuali's second decade. And there are many software firms across the timeline of history who never make it to their 10-year golden chopsticks for starting their second decade. But I'm privileged this morning to assemble a panel that can speak to this. These are a number of folks who are leaders in various Kuali communities. So immediately to my left, I have Lynn Johnson, who's the Chief Financial Officer at Colorado State University and also chairs the KFS board, and Steve Dowdy at MIT, Director of Research Systems at MIT, and long the father of COIUS, as he said to us last night. I think that may be an understatement. I like godfather of COIUS. That's probably a bit better. Kelli Trosvig, who is the Vice President for IT and Chief Information Officer at the University of Washington, and Denna, who is also Vice President for IT and Chief Information Officer at the University of Maryland. Not everyone may know he's had a change of zip code since you last saw him, so at the University of Maryland now. Steve, Kelli, and Eric also are members of the Kuali Foundation board. So as we think about heading into our next decade, one apt metaphor for it is Jim Collins' great book on Good to Great. And if you've read this book, it's a fantastic book. And Jim Collins' methodology in thinking about firms and who succeeds and such is not just by studying great companies, but by studying contrasts, where in the same period of time, at the same moment, with the same set of external conditions going on, why is it that some firms rise above and thrive and other firms may struggle or even plateau or fall off? So he studies contrast in Good to Great. So I'd like to open with a question to our panelists. I'll even let Lynn maybe take the first bite at this. Lynn, what's good about Kuali community now, and what do we need to be great?
Well, Brad, thank you so much for letting me go first. I'm very, very excited to talk to you about what's been good about KFS and now what is great. KFS is a very strong, proven financial system application for the benefit of higher education, and we've proven ourselves year after year. Colorado State University this last June closed its fiscal year, its 5th fiscal year on KFS. It's passed time and time again through the audit process with no problems whatsoever. So that's what's been good about KFS. What is great about KFS is yesterday in our KFS board meeting, we unanimously voted to move forward with working comprehensively with our newfound .com Kuali Co. So I am absolutely excited about what that brings to the table for us, because where we've had some challenges and difficulty, I think Kuali Co is going to be coming in and filling that gap and ensuring sustainability for KFS for the next decade to come, and also to help us expedite the things relative to functionality that we need so desperately to move forward. Kuali Co is going to help us get that done. So I'm absolutely excited to make that announcement today, Brad.
Very good. That is a big announcement for the whole community, and that just happened yesterday.
Just yesterday.
Yeah. So we don't get into too much of an order. I'll jump down to even Eric. Eric, in the eyes of your institution, what's good about the Kuali community, and what do we need to be great in our second decade?
Well, what's good is when you gather a room full like this, either physically or virtually, with a common interest in improving administrative systems so that we can keep our money and our mission and deliver great service. So it's the collective effort of this group that is great, that we enjoy being a part of that. If there's one thing that we hope to see for the future, is the 4 things that we talked about in August when we announced the creation of Qualico. The speed with which we deliver things. All of us are facing increased need for speed. It makes me think of the old Rocky movie. We need speed. Speed is what we need. So we're excited to be part of working with Qualico in the student area, in accelerating the pace of delivery, and being a partner in that relationship. I don't know if that's been publicly announced, that we've actually the provost has signed an agreement with Qualico for University of Maryland being part of the Kuali student effort with Qualico, and we hope that there's others that join. And Joel tells us that there are others that will be coming along. So.
I have heard rumor that there are others, and maybe just for point of clarity, this is a cloud-based student system.
Yes.
This is taking a lot of what was learned in the first round, but really accelerating and building a clean cloud elastic student system from the ground up. Kelli, what about you? You've watched Kuali for quite some time and been involved there from Washington in a number of angles. What's good about this community, and what do we need to be great?
I think am I mic'd?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think what's good about this community is just what Eric was saying, the functional knowledge, the commitment to the mission. Nobody cares or understands our institutions better than the people in this room, and is more committed to the delivery of great service to our faculty, staff, and students. We are the foundation of great service and partnership at Kuali in our institution. So I think that's what's good about us now. What's great about us and what we need to do to be great in the future is really to move more quickly. Innovation is really the heart of higher education, and that need for speed, as Eric talked about, has become more pressing for all of us, because our students and our faculty members have higher expectations for us. As we've delivered more to them, they want ever more from us. And so I think the need for speed and the ability, the partnership that we've established with Qualico is going to allow us to have that ability to deliver more delightful software with more capabilities more quickly. So that's what I think we need to do to be great. There's more areas that we need to work in analytics, in things in student that we aren't going to be able to do if we don't get a comprehensive framework going quickly. There's competitors out in the market that are looking at our software right now and are using our functional design specifications to design their software. So we've got to move quickly to keep our advantage. We're still at the leading edge of student software right now, but in order to maximize our investment right now, we need to take a new tack.
So if I speak for Indiana University, I'll say that's what I hear from my vice president for research or senior vice president for finance. They're happy with the systems that we've got in. KFS is working great for us, clean audits as well. Our research administration system, I think we've completed our rollout of IRB this year, Institutional Review Board across the Med Center and multiple campuses, and we have more comprehensive information about institutional controls in an area that's very important than we've ever had before. But the thing I hear from both of them is this needs to go faster. And we probably, I think many of us understand that we've got a generation of software that in many cases needs a facelift. The world of technology has marched on, tablets, mobile devices, and such. And so for our casual users, we'd like it for all of our back office users as well, but for our casual user, that professor who only submits a grant maybe once a year, that system needs to be a little more awesome in terms of his or her experience than they are feeling just right now. So, Steve, you've been involved with building COIAS in one model where really MIT was the company, per se, and then the Kuali COIAS community came together to build it open source in a very different model. So now as we are looking to this next future with Kuali COIAS, what looks great to you about the road ahead, and you know, is there anything that concerns you as we make this next step?
Yeah, I think there are a few things, maybe not so much of a concern, but it's sort of a reality check here. As Brad mentioned, we started a long time ago in COIAS with a Power Builder application. And from there, we went to a Java application, to a JSP application, to a KNS application, to a KRAD application, and now we don't know if we're going to be an Angular application or a React application.
And isn't it awesome that a functional guy can even say all that?
But, you know, I think that's some of the frustration that's been in the COIAS community is that, you know, we were asked to make technology changes a couple of years ago, and the foundation did sort of make COIAS a priority as one of our more forward-facing applications that faculty interact with. You know, I always sort of laughingly say, you know, you really can't make a journal voucher that sexy, no offense, Lynn, but, you know, I mean, you know, once you get a debit and a credit on the screen, isn't the application kind of built? But with research admin, there's a lot of things that are going on in there. And so the COIAS community was asked to take a step forward and kind of lead the pack with the KRAD kind of conversion. And there was all kinds of other acronyms. Let's do the OJB to the JPA and all of the other things that we were asked to do. And we did that. And so I think, you know, there's a little bit of concern and a hesitation to jump forward really quick. As Brad mentioned, the KFS vote was unanimous. I'll be honest that the KC vote is kind of close, but for a lot of different reasons, and we're working through those to make sure that we do move forward. I think one of the other things about higher education is we tend to be too disciplined sometimes. And at some point in time, you just need to take the risk and move forward. And you need to just weigh those risks and take that opportunity because not all risks, you know, are bad. Some of them are real opportunities. And so I think we have a great opportunity now with Kuali Co to move forward. Our community will come around as they have time and time again. I know Joel's going to talk in a little bit, and so you know, our community is very interested right now in what we are going to do for the next technology stack, because we are about ready to roll out that first proposal development module any day. I don't know where Terry Durkin is. I won't put a date in his mouth because he'd kick me. But we have delivered, and we will be delivering a new UXI. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And we're ready to go on with the other modules, and so we'll be looking for some of that leadership from Kuali Co in the not too distant future to help us plan that roadmap into the future.
Well, and this may be a good time to jump in. You talk about the vote that KFS took yesterday and the vote that you guys took. When you back up to 10 years ago in the innovation of this community, I hope everybody recalls that it is you, it's the folks here and the folks who were here 10 years ago that everything we've been doing, we innovated and created the structures to do that. The idea that there would be a set of investors who would come together and that there would be institutional representation on those boards, and that given that those in many cases were executives, we needed a functional council who actually knew what they were doing. And the functional council could say, yeah, this is how the software should really work, and we needed some technical guidance, and we hired some software folks and got them from some institutions, and we also learned how to deal with problems along the way. So let's just dig into that just a little bit. You know, what happens when, you know, Indiana University, we put someone into the project, and the project says, oh my, you know, this guy's just can't keep up, or this guy just has a toxic personality. And so how does the community deal with that? Well, we learned how to deal with that. And step by step by step, what happens when we need to make an upgrade? What happens when Colorado State University wants to go live with a full commitment of their financial system to a version of KFS that has not yet been publicly released? Well, we learned how to support them. in doing that. And the cavalry came in, and it was an awesome implement. It was totally an awesome implementation. And so we innovated at each step along the way. When the librarians came in, and the librarians said, you know, we know what we need in a system, but you know, we really don't want to code this thing ourselves. HTC Global, one of our commercial affiliates, became the company that has done the software development under the guidance of librarians. The point I want to drive to is, if you look how we're working today, from KFS to Kuali Days to the open library environment, etc., each of these projects has been innovated a little bit differently to suit the needs of their community. And this 10-year step is really us doing that again. We are innovating again. So Lynn, I'd like for you to clarify. You said you took a vote yesterday. Did you vote to dissolve KFS and just give everything to Joel? Or could you maybe unpack that just a little bit more?
This community is extremely passionate about what they do, and to vote to dissolve, to give this to Joel, not happening. Not. So what the KFS board voted to do yesterday is, I do have to take this opportunity to reach out and thank Eilish Byrne, Kimber Horn, and Chris Coppola, along with Amy Turner, who helped, along with myself, serve as a small group to get together to figure out how we can put a proposal together that we could put forward to the KFS board that made sense and that looked like it would bring sustainability to KFS and move us through this transition. And that group worked very well together. And the proposal that we put together is actually more of a blended model. So for all intents and purposes, Qualico is going to be the employer of our technical team. They won't necessarily be the employer, but when you take a look at how the team is going to work together, that's the structure that we've created. We are then going to be relying upon Qualico to bring in some additional expertise that we need to support this team to help us move in a much more nimble fashion going forward so we can deliver the things that we need.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sourcing strategy. If there's some things and talents that Qualico can aggregate and hire and run some, if you want to say, discipline, command, control processes to execute more quickly. And KFS is still that deep knowledge in the institutions that knows what's needed, knows what would be acceptable, not acceptable, has the experiences of taking new code and moving it into our installations. But also, we have noticed, I don't think I can flip the slides back to the slide deck. One of the things that you see in Jim Collins' book of Good to Great, when he talks about companies that move from being good to being great, one part of the exercise is confront the brutal facts. For firms that are going to make that next step, they have to get very serious and very honest about what's going on. And one of the things that KFS noticed is the number of new adoptions was slowing down, right? There was, more institutions needed a cloud scale, software as a service, the user interface needed a bit. KFS had the money, KFS had the design. They knew what needed to be done, just needed to improve another part, and that would be the execution part around this. And so that's the vote, is you've confronted the brutal facts, you know what you need, and rather than just run another year of the same thing, you're recognizing and pivoting on that a little bit.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Eric, Kelli, comments looking ahead on some of the things that maybe you see in good to great or things that are on our roadmap.
Go ahead. So one of the things that I think we need to invest in, we're investing a lot in the technology side, but investing in the identification of best practices. This came out in the discussion this morning with Kuali student that wrote ahead. We need to start to focus on what's the best way to do something. And I'll kind of harken back to an example. It was always ironic to me when I was at the University of Utah. I was also the CIO for the Utah system of higher education. And the irony for me was that we could have every single faculty member across the state of Utah using the same LMS. And faculty are naturally drawn together to think alike, right?
Learning management system for acronym speak here.
Yeah,
LMS.
the learning management system, that the entire faculty of the state could use that, but we couldn't share a payroll system across the institutions. Like there's something terribly unique about how we do payroll at the University of Utah versus Weber State versus Southern Utah University versus wherever. And it was, I think a part of that was there wasn't an overt effort in identifying what's the best way. We were too caught up in who's right versus what's right, and making that overt and explicit instead of assuming things are just different. And so we have to be able to bob and weave about all the different permutations, that what Brad often calls the purple posies, that each of us seem to have an interest in. So having an investment in what are the best practices? How does the workflow work? We've been, I'm going to do a little shout out here for Alec. I don't know where he's at, but Alec Sharp was helping us at the University of Utah and is now helping us at the University of Maryland think through what are those business processes and what's the best way to do that, and enable that with the software. Sometimes we worry too much about the software and kind of cram process inside of it versus thinking first about the process and viewing the technology as an enabler. I hope we can do more and more of that kind of work together, of sharing, here's how we do it, here's how you do it, what's the best way to do it, and not just assume, we're all different. What's really the best way to do this?
Kelli?
Another point I'd like to make from Good Grade has to do with what we do really well, which is higher education software. So many of us get stuck on software that's not really built for higher education, trying to do our mission, and it doesn't work very well. And I just, for the first time, got to see a demonstration of the Kuali financial system software that is obviously built to run a higher education institution. And it's so complete for what we need to do, and it doesn't have major holes or gaps in the system. And that's what we need, is we need those essential functions and building software that's really perfect for higher education and not be distracted by other things in other markets, which is what our competitors are doing. And that's an essential lesson of Good to Great, is really focusing on what you do well.
Yeah, if you'll flip back to the slides for a moment, we can illustrate that. Jim Collins refers to the hedgehog concept, and some of you have read the Collins literature. You know he talks about the hedgehog as defense strategy is very simple, just rolls up in a ball. And that really works against a lot of predators and others who try very sophisticated things and end up being lunch. But the hedgehog knows what it does really well and just rolls up in a ball. And the three things that he lists there, and Kelli just touched upon them, determine what you can be the best in the world at and what you cannot be. This community can be the best in the world at collectively articulating the software and process needs of higher education. There is nobody that can run circles around this community. We've learned how to communicate. It was one of the great skeptical questions at the beginning of KFS. Well, could you build a financial system that would work for a big public, but also work for a private university, that would work for a multi-campus system, that would work for a community college? And we said, yes, we can, and yes, we did. And so one of the things going into the future, we can be the best in the world at articulating our needs and being a living laboratory of improving the software that meets higher education. Point 2 and 3, determine what drives your economic engine and determine what you're deeply passionate about. We're passionate about the mission of colleges and universities. We're passionate about students, we're passionate about research and education, and software is an essential and necessary means of carrying out that passion. And Kelli just pointing out that sometimes when we try to implement software that was made to run auto manufacturing, it's challenging. Challenging along the way. So in the minutes we have left, I'd like to ask each panelist, and maybe I'll even lead off with Steve on this. What is your guidance to this community at the beginning of the 10th year of Kuali Days and looking to our future? We've got just a few days here together. Steve, what's your guidance to this community as we hang out together for another couple of days before we head back to our home institutions?
He always asks me the hard questions first. You know, Brad mentioned that, you know, the COES community has come through several evolutions. And one of the things that I remember when we had the existing COES community, and then there was this thing called the Kuali community that was forming. And we had a lot of discussions about us and them. And I caught myself doing it too. And I was the person that was supposed to be shepherding and herding the cats or whatever you want to call it. And I caught myself referring to it as us and them. And I'm hearing that already. Everybody's, and part of that us and them was, I think, because I didn't trust this new thing. There was a level of trust. And, you know, some of those people that I didn't trust, I'll pick on Lori Schultz, whoever she is. I mean, she's one of the most amazing people in the world. But at that time, I did not trust Lori because I did not know Lori, and she was in that other thing. And I'm hearing that a little bit, that it's now us Kuali and them Kuali Co. Kuali Co is us. We are going to make this or break this. And so I guess my, get past the us and them and start thinking about the we. Joel's going to, produce some amazing software. At least he keeps promising us, so we're ready to see what he's going to deliver for us. But he needs us with him in the we because he needs our functional expertise. And he can't develop awesome software without us. So it's not us and them, it's all about we. And so I urge you to start, meeting the new Kuali Co people. There are a lot of our same colleagues, they just got a new logo on their t-shirt today. And build that trust so that we can move forward quickly and get past this us and get back to the we and get moving forward.
Yeah, Lynn, you want to go next because I think KFS is illustrating what Steve talked about with the hybrid organizational design. Mm-hmm. So guidance for this community this week?
So guidance from my perspective, and this is probably something several of you that I've had an opportunity to talk about will not be new news. Leverage. That's what we have in this community. You can't leverage with any of the other vended solutions that are out there the way that you can leverage within the Kuali community. And Kuali Co is an extension of that. And so what I mean by leverage, and I want to thank my board for taking this risk-based approach and accepting this level of risk that we're going into. And it's not so much from my perspective a greater level of risk. It is what the community tends to perceive as a greater level of risk, but to me it's a greater level of security. We leverage our resources together to garner functionality. We've been able to do that. It's a proven track record. And now what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to take one additional step of leverage, and that is leveraging what Kuali Co is going to be bringing to the table. They're going to be growing their revenue streams, using that revenue stream to also create additional functionality. So we'll be leveraging our resources together to get functionality, and now we'll also be able to leverage ourselves to what Kuali Co brings to the table. So as you go out of this room and you think about Kuali, if you're in the community, be thankful that we had that ability to leverage because our resources can always go further and now go even further. And if you're here kicking the tires around Kuali, think about how you are going to be able to leverage and the story you can take back to your institution about how you can have your limited resources go even further because you're going to be joining in on this leveraging game that we all are playing today.
If Mike Allred was here, the Controller 2C Davis, who is also a Kuali Foundation board member, he would say, I understand we're making some trade-off in the absolute control. He said, we've had absolute control in our software projects. He said, what I need is absolute outcomes faster. I would give up a little bit of control to get outcomes faster and grow more adoptions of places that haven't yet picked up KC and KFS and other projects along the way. So I'll go quickly first to Kelli and then to Eric. Guidance to this community for the rest of this week.
By the very nature of the fact that you're in this room, you're a risk taker already. You're already thinking outside the box. Because you're in Kuali, because you think about things differently, you are already predisposed to thinking about things differently. Walk with us on this journey. Go into it with eyes open. There's a lot of possibilities here with the addition of QualiCo to our community and to the ability, as Lynn said, the leverage, the ability to add velocity to what we're doing is so important right now for us. And to really enhance the user experience for not necessarily us, those of us from a technical background, but from the casual users, because that will so much aid our adoption. So I'm going to say, go into it with eyes wide open. You are the risk takers. You are the leaders in your community, and be open.
Eric.
I have a tagline on my personal email, my Gmail account, that I think is applicable for all of us. Every time I send an email, I look at this little phrase. It's by a guy named Eric Hoffer. I'm a child of the 60s, so he was a big philosopher back then. In times of radical change, it is the learners who inherit the future, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to work in a world that no longer exists. We're all in education because we love to learn. Let's be learners and continue to learn just like we have over the past 10 years. That's our key to success going forward. That we're learners. We're not learned, just telling stories about the past. We're learners inheriting the future.
Very good. Let's give our panel a hand. Thank you all.